Well, hello everybody. This is Troy Fullwood with Pinnacle Investment and Non-Performing Note Pro. How to grab your slice of a $540 billion business opportunity. And as we stand, we're right now at the top of the hour on today's call, and I want to encourage everybody to get something to write with and something to write on, because I'm going to give you guys some links and some ideas on how you can take advantage and benefit financially from current market conditions. And what I'm going to be sharing with you today, I'm going to share with you a software that we use internally inside of our office. This is something we've been using for, my goodness, it seems like forever now, several years, that actually takes what I call the emotional side, the emotions out of buying and investing in business as a whole. So I'm going to share that with you as a whole. But today's call is going to center around what I refer to as best practices in the industry. A lot of times people will share ideas and concepts and values and with the world, and some of them are pretty darn good. There's no doubt about it. I've listened to a few myself and heard some really good ideas, but in the end, the thing to remember in regards to any business, and no matter what you're in, is you want to build a business that centers around what I call best practices. What are the best things that I can do on a consistent basis that will create a consistent return for my efforts? And what does that look like? Whether that's marketing, whether that's management, whether that's financially investing, whether that's people and employees, things of that nature are critical to the lifeblood and the longevity of any business out there. Okay, and every industry has them, every business has them. If you think about it, the businesses that are successful in the world, or in America in general, let's just focus on the US, are successful because they apply what are known as best practices and proven practices. Okay, not just, hey, I thought of this cool idea on a Monday, let's try it and see if it works and build a whole business around it. And not that you shouldn't look at things outside of a normal course of business to, how you see, what I would call cutting edge in general. I mean, think about it. 15 years ago, having a website for a business was kind of a highfalutin idea. You know, you had to be a major corporation in order to do those kinds of things. But at the end of the day, now having a website is a necessary tool for branding and professionalism in pretty much any business, and they're very, very affordable. They didn't used to be as affordable. So that's just a simple idea. So hopefully you've gotten something to write with. Hopefully you've got something to write on. And with that being said, let's go ahead and tee off the call. By the way, one just quick little advice. If for some reason the audio goes out or the video goes out on you, the easiest way to fix it on your end is simply to refresh your URL bar, and it'll reconnect. Because we do broadcast live over the internet, we're at the mercy of internet providers and people like Google, which is who we broadcast through. And because it's a system, it's not always a perfect system. And so sometimes there are flaws or delays, or like I say, disconnects would be a great word to use. So that's the easiest way to fix it in the event that happens. Okay, so don't panic, don't jump up and down. Just very quickly, hit your refresh browser button, and it will reconnect for you. Okay. All right. So let me bring this up here And I'm going to go big here. All right, great. So how to grab your slice of a $540 billion business opportunity. Question that a lot of people ask me in this business is, how big of an industry are we a part of? And when I say the word 540 billion, that is a huge, huge number. And to be frankly honest with you, a very unrelatable number. I don't know anybody on this call, and I can only really speak for myself when I say this. I've never had $540 billion worth of assets or money in my account. And to be frankly honest with you, I don't know anybody who has. So that being said, it's only understandable that that number is so far-fetched in regards to relatability that it can be hard to imagine the possibilities for you or me or anybody else to be a part of it. Now, in all fairness, I'm fairly comfortable with very large numbers because I've been doing the business for 19 plus years. And in that 19 plus years time frame, I've seen a lot of big numbers, and we've done a lot of very large deals. The largest deal we've ever done, a standalone deal, is $86 million on its own merits. So I've seen some pretty large numbers, but still not billions and billions of dollars at once. So what does that mean to you and I? How is it that we could look at something that is so mammoth or gigantic and break it down in a way where it becomes bite-sized and relatable for you and I to take advantage of it, and for you and I to, carve out our slice of a pie or our piece of a pie? And that's really to be said for any industry. I mean, if you look at just the REO industry as a whole, you're talking about $3 to $4 billion worth of REOs are in the marketplace at this current time. Those are REOs that are held by banks and institutions. So that number is a large number. But if you look for just REOs in your own local marketplace that are listed on MLS or Craigslist or wherever they might be listed, you can buy a house here and buy a house there kind of thing. Well, the same thing is true with notes as a whole. So let me show you real quickly kind of what we're leading towards and what's happening in our industry as we speak and as we are recording this particular call. So I'm going to change browsers here real quick, and then I'm going to come back to this. So with that being said, I'll pull this up, minimize this. All right, so we've got this particular article, and this is an article that just came out fairly recently, less than 30 days ago. It says HUD to sell off $1.3 billion of non-performing residential loans. Now, here's the simplicity of how our industry works. Because there's $540 billion worth of products, there's been about $38 to $40 billion sold off in the last 12 months. So count this month and go 12 months back, about $39 to $40 billion worth of product. If you divide that into 540 billion, you've got about 13 years worth of product, a little bit over. Now, that may change as times evolve and as the economy evolves. There may be some years where there's more sold off and less sold off. But the simple truth is they're not going to sell it all off at once, and they're not going to do it onesie-twosies either as a whole from an institutional perspective. So what they're doing is they're taking things, they're doing portfolios in what I call bite-sized institutional chunks, okay? Bite-sized institutional chunks. So as this article says, the Department of Housing and Urban Development plans to sell about $1.3 billion of non-performing residential loans next month. The sale of 24 pools of non-performing single-family loans is scheduled for November 18th. According to a news release, the sale will include 19 pools of neighborhood stabilization outcome loans and 5 pools of diversified national loans. The sale is being concluded or conducted as part of HUD's distressed asset stabilization program. So when you break this down, you've got 19 different pools in different sizes. And I think here, let me see if this pulls this up before I jump over here real quick. Don't need that. Okay. I want to make sure we're still broadcasting. All right. So here it breaks it down into the different portfolios. You've got 13. These things range from 13 to 95 million. Here you got 9 million to 30 million. These are nonprofit or unit of local government only pools. These are neighborhood stabilization pools. So you've got several pools here on the bottom that are for nonprofits only. Okay, so if you're running a nonprofit organization, you can certainly bid on those. And then you've got the ones at the top. They're kind of state related, for lack of better words, as a whole. Now, this includes 8,300 notes, 19 neighborhood stabilization outcome NSO pools, that 5 diversified national pools. Okay, so this is a press release that came out. They let everybody know in the market space because they have to by federal law. The truth is, what they're really looking for is they're looking for buyers to come in, like hedge funds, private equity funds, and foreign investors that will come in and purchase these. And they do. Okay, at the end of the day, that's exactly what they do. Now, with that, they then break it down, and those buyers come in because it's an all or nothing purchase. In our business, it's all or nothing. So the fact that it's an all or nothing purchase, that means they have to come in and write a check for the whole thing based on one price. That's it. And they have to take the good and the bad. And in every non-performing note pool, there is good and there is bad. Okay, that's just the way the industry works as a whole. And the banks will do that. They'll put some of the rougher properties, some of the rougher loans in the portfolio because what? They want to get them off their books. It only makes sense. Kind of put it all in. It's kind of like if you're cleaning out your garage, you just kind of put everything in. Something goes in the trash and some things go into Goodwill, and you just kind of getting rid of everything. And some of it is good stuff to somebody else, and some of it is, just to be frankly honest with you, garbage. Okay. And the same thing happens in our business as well. Okay, their goal as a seller is to get the assets off of their books, and they're commonly referred to as toxic assets. Okay, toxic assets, and that's exactly what they are. These are not truly assets. Okay, by IRS definition, an asset is something that produces a cash flow. Okay, an asset is something that produces a cash flow or something that has equity in it. Okay, primarily cash flow. Like the house that you live in is not an asset to you or me, not even my house. My house is actually a liability. Your house is a liability. Okay, that's what it's commonly referred to because it doesn't produce a cash flow. In order for us to live in that house, we have to pay a mortgage and lights and utilities and things of that nature, and that costs money. So it's costing money, not producing money. Okay, hopefully you understand the difference. Okay, so these are toxic assets. It's kind of cliche in nature. It's actually a toxic liability is really what it boils down to. So with that being said, we have to then look at these and understand that the big boys are going to come in first. Okay, they're going to come in because they got really deep pockets, they got really cheap cost of capital, and they can move really, really quick, and they don't really care that they've got, how you say, toxic or how you say undesirable notes in it. Their baseline, when I say baseline, you're talking somebody like Blackstone Investments, Blackstone Funds, which is a New York-based fund. They're huge in the marketplace in a lot of different industries as a whole. But one of the areas that they play in is non-performing notes. So they'll come in and they'll write a check and they'll take the whole portfolio. Now, here's what they do in the next 30 to 60 days after they buy it, is they sell off anything that has a value of $250K or less. Okay? So if they've got 100 loans in a portfolio and 70 of them are 250K plus, then that means they're going to sell off a portfolio of 30 of them that are 250K or 249, whatever your benchmark is, you want it, or less. Okay, makes sense, right? And the reason is because their matrix and their algorithms show, their internal algorithms tell them very quickly, hey, we're not going to mess with anything below this because we can't make money based on our overhead costs, based on our capital costs, based on our personnel costs, based on the cost of renting the building and the offices, based on this, based on this, based on this. So they know right then and there that they're not even going to mess with it, because in the business of note, it takes just as much work to reform a $50,000 note as it does to reform a $300,000 note. And the truth is, you make a whole lot more money on a $300,000 deal than you do on a $50,000 deal, yet it's the same amount of work between the two, okay? It's the same process, it's the same procedure, you're dealing with the people, you've got the same legal challenges, you've got the same tax challenges, so on and so on and so on. So you're gonna make more money on deals that are $250,000 or greater on a per deal basis compared to, say, a $50 or $75 or $100,000 note deal, okay? Only makes sense. But here's the blessing in that. Okay, here's the blessing for people like you and me, is that we can take a $50,000 deal and we can make a nice payday from it very easily. I'm going to show you how that works here in a minute. So we don't need $250,000 or better in a deal, because the simple truth is that at the end of the day, we don't have to worry about the overhead costs and things like that say Blackstone does. Okay, makes sense, right? We don't have the big buildings on Wall Street. We're not driving Lamborghinis and Porsches. We don't have bonus checks and all those other things that that they do as a whole. All right, so we've got the PowerPoint back up here. Let's see here. Sorry, I'm cleaning up some comments here. All right, so back to the key here. I'm going to show you guys today how to capitalize on those smaller balance deals, because the truth is that's where you start as an investor, and that's where you can make great money as an investor. And that is where there's the least amount of competition as an investor, okay? Because you don't want to be in a, what I would call a David and Goliath type scenario, okay? Going up against Blackstone, going up against any of those guys as a whole, it's not going to be a good thing, okay? It's just Morgan Stanley's another buyer of notes. Those guys have got a lot of money, a lot of capital, they got a lot of resources. They got a lot of personnel. They got a lot of people. They got, so you don't want to sit there and go into a battle with them. Why not let them take what they want first and then buy from them what it is that they don't want? Because there's a lot of meat on those bones on deals that they don't want. And I'll show you what I mean by that. But first, I want to share with you some general insight to the government website here. Okay, and here is, sorry, I'm changing screens here. Okay. So we've got here, based on the government website, federalreserve.gov, there's a URL if you want to write it down, or just go to federalreserve.gov and look for mortgage trends as a whole. And as of the first quarter of 2015, there were over $10.2 trillion in residential mortgages compared to 919 billion in apartment mortgages and 2.3 trillion in commercial loans of all types. The question is, which is a bigger pond to fish in? Okay, so as I said in the beginning, we're going to focus on what's called best practices. We're going to focus on something that actually produces a payout, that produces something positive for you, okay? And when you look at an industry as big as ours, you were talking $10.2 trillion. That is a crazy, crazy number as a whole. So that being as crazy, that is a number outside of my realm of understanding as a whole of how big and how much that would be. But one thing I do understand is when I start looking at business opportunities, what's going to produce the greatest return and the greatest result for my efforts. So I want to pick a pond that has a lot of fish in it. Okay, I want to pick a pond that's got a lot of opportunity in it. And between the fact that they've got $10.2 trillion in residential mortgages and they got $540 billion worth of residential non-performing mortgages compared to $3 billion worth of REOs, which is the bigger pond? Now, there's nothing wrong with REOs. Don't get me wrong. I'm not here to put that side of the business down. I've got a lot of great friends that do very, very well in that market space. But I also know that the deals are becoming harder and harder to find in the REO market space. Okay, there's a lot of people that do it, going after the same deals over and over and over again. And so that drives up the pricing, which drives down their profit. And at the end of the day, they're working harder for less than they ever have. Now, thank goodness the markets have been pretty solid. They've been pretty stable. Values have been in line. So they've been okay. But if the market starts dropping, then in turn, they could end up working a lot harder for a whole lot less really, really, really quickly. So the question I have for everybody is, which is a bigger pond to fish in? The Fed Board of Governors reports that FDIC-insured banks continue to experience a residential real estate delinquency rate of 8.17 through the last quarter of 2014. As of January 2015, CoreLogic estimates an NPN inventory of 1.9 million properties in the U.S. The value of such inventory, CoreLogic estimates at $264 billion. The Mortgage Bankers Association has estimated that industry-wide, between banks, hedge funds, and institutional investors like pension funds, there exists more than $540 billion in non-performing note inventory to be parceled out over the next several years, which makes this opportunity larger than any other segment of the real estate investing market industry. So who is Troy Fullwood? Well, if you've never heard me speak before, and this is the first time you've ever been on one of my webinars, and you've ever heard one of my webinars, I'd like to take a moment to introduce myself. I've been a principal real estate note investor since 1997, which is over 18 plus years in the business. I've closed over $1 billion in residential real estate note transactions. I've successfully raised over $30 million of seed capital for my own distressed private equity fund and operated with an IRR of 92+% return for the fund and the investors. I just recently launched a new distressed NPN fund with access to more than $100 million in capital. More about this later. So this is my why. Okay, you have to have a why in anything that you do, because no matter what it is you choose to do in business or in life, there's going to be challenges along the way. There truly, truly is. Whether that's starting, if you want to rehab homes, that's great. There's a great niche for that. There's people that do very, very well in that, but it's tough. It requires work. It requires effort. Same thing with investing in real estate notes. It requires work. It requires effort. Now, one of the things you're not going to hear from me today, because I want to be really sensitive to everybody's why and everybody's expectations, is I'm not going to hype up today's call. I'm not going to play games and show you, hey, guys, you're going to be grandiose and have millions of dollars by Friday, because that's just not true. If that was the case, I would have solved this whole thing within the first 2 years of being in business, and I'd be sitting on a little island drinking Mai Tais or something like that with a little umbrella over my head, okay? But that's just not the case. Is it a business that has great returns and great possibilities, increased longevity for my why? Absolutely. Absolutely. In other words, what I'm saying to you is this is not a get-rich-quick formula. This is not a get-rich-quick idea. But what it does do, and what I will show you, is it will, as I will show to you today, that it will create better returns than any other segment of the real estate marketplace. Okay? Yeah, it will create better returns than any other segment of the real estate marketplace. And I'll show that to you today. But more importantly, the reason I do the things that I do is because of my why. There's my beautiful wife, Kim, to my left, your right. The little guy there with the red shirt on, that's my son, Jack, who's 12. He's holding Camden, who's one of our twins. Hunter is my other son, who's 14. He's holding our other twin, Parker. Little Parker and Camden are now 2.5 years old. So can you say toddler times 2? Yeah, that's our household nowadays, toddler times 2. So you can just get an idea of how busy our life can be on a personal level on top of the business. So how I built my first fund. I started by flipping my first tape of NPNs, and it evolved into raising $30 million in capital. I'm going to show you how to do this on today's call. Okay, so I'm going to show how that worked on today's call. I deployed $21 million of the $30 million in the first 6 months of the fund being operational. That $21 million purchased over $87 million in unpaid principal balance loans and a $71 million in value spread over 621 loans. Since the loans were back to performing, once the loans were back to performing, it produced an IRR of 92+%. That's based off of 436 performing loans. So you're not always going to get every portfolio of loans back to performing. Okay, as much as you would want to hope and pray and work your tail off to make it happen, it's just not going to happen. Okay, there's a certain number of loans in every portfolio that end up going to foreclosure. Okay, the obvious ones are homes that are vacant. Okay, buying a non-performing note on a vacant property, you really only have one solution to recover your investment out of that property, and that is to foreclose on it and get the property back. The other thing is that some people just don't want to be cooperative. They don't want to do a loan modification. They don't want to work together to make things happen. They become very evasive and kind of slither around and sneak around and don't return phone calls and respond to letters and things of that nature. And unfortunately, after months and months of attempting to reach out to people like that, you have no other choice but to proceed forward, which is not by any means a first line of defense. As a matter of fact, it's probably way, way, way down on our list of options when it comes to being in the non-performing note space. But the reality of it is the majority of people will modify their loans and go back to a performing status once they realize who you are and that you're actually there to help them and you're actually there as part of the solution versus part of the problem in our industry. Okay, and that's really the role that we've taken, and that's really the role that I took with this particular fund when it originally started. Was our mission statement was all about keeping people in their homes. It was all about modifying loans prior to the modification market with banks and institutions being what it grew into. And mind you, we were in the business back in late 06, early 2007. So prior to the crash, we kind of saw the writing on the wall. So we did some really, really cool things prior to it becoming nouveau in the eyes of the banks and the institutions. So question is, why are banks selling? Okay, it's simple. They can no longer handle the massive amount of defaults that they are having to address today, and the record number of balloon defaults that they will face over the next 2 to 5 years. In addition, the majority of the properties have negative equity in them, so there's nothing for them to go after. Okay, they're not going to throw good money after bad. It's just not going to happen. So once the property creates a negative equity position or has a negative equity position, they will stop pursuing the foreclosure on that property, and it will then be pushed aside and set aside for a note pool sale at a later date and time. There are 3 proven ways to profit in this space. Okay, number 1, lump sum paydays. Number 2, monthly income, and 3, equity kickers. So I want to cover these 3, and then I'm going to break out a portfolio, and then I'm going to break out our software. I'm going to show you how it is that we can tackle any one of these 3, and how it is that we know in advance, prior to writing a check, before we put 1 red cent on the table, exactly where we're going to land. Okay, we've got probably a 99% accuracy rate when we use the software that we use. So let's cover number 1, lump sum paydays. Okay, first way you can benefit in this business, in this space, depending upon your current personal situation. Okay, if you're a person with a lot of money and you've got some money sitting on the side, you want to invest it, great. You're going to play a little bit different role than somebody who maybe is living paycheck to paycheck. Maybe they got a little emergency fund or something like that, but they really kind of tired of their job and they want to look at other opportunities in the real estate space. Okay, and they don't want to rehab homes and they don't want to manage apartment complexes and things like that. So in the business of non-performing notes, the fastest way to make money is what I call playing matchmaker. Okay, this is how I got started. This is what led to my first fund. Okay, I played matchmaker. Okay, with NPNs, by flipping a pool of NPNs to cash-rich hedge funds and private equity funds that are seeking to invest in the non-performing notes. Okay, also known as NPLs, non-performing loans. Okay, that being said, playing matchmaker is a very, very lucrative, low-risk way to participate in a very large industry, dollar-wise. Okay, very large industry, dollar-wise. So the way that this works is very simply what I call cash up front. You make 1 point or more, okay, and I just use 1% because it's easy math for the call up front. So take, for instance, on a $5 million deal, that works out to $50,000 in your pocket. Remember, you don't invest any of your own money. It comes from the fund. Okay, so you're not putting any of your own money into this. All you're doing is putting a little bit of effort, a little bit of work, some phone calls, some emails, things of that nature to source out and find the deals in the market space. Okay, now why would you want to do this? Well, very simply, okay, doing this builds the foundation for a business that will create long-term residual value for you. In other words, it's a starting point. If you want to know where to start in the business, if you don't have money and cash and things of that nature, and you don't have a lot of time, this is something that you can do spending 5, maybe 10 hours a week tops and source multiple deals per week that'll produce revenue for you. A perfect example is this morning, I received an email from a student of mine who sent me over a portfolio, $22 million portfolio that he found that they're selling for 25% of UPD. Now, he's asking for a 3% fee on it. Not a problem. So we're signing an agreement to pay him a 3% fee. And with that, he's going to make a very handsome payday. Now, we just got it. Not even 24, not even, my goodness, not even 4 hours ago, 5 hours ago. So the simple truth is that this is new, but here's a student that went out and sourced a $22 million portfolio. Pretty simple. And he does it part-time, and we'll get all the contracts and stuff in place today, and we'll get into due diligence probably late today, tomorrow, and lock this thing down and move towards a closing and get a closing done within the next 30 days. Okay, typically takes about 30 to 45 days to close a portfolio in general. Okay, but in the meantime, while we're doing due diligence on it and doing our work on it, he can be outsourcing another deal. So in other words, keeping his pipeline full, because we'll take over the role and the cost and the expenses and the time of doing what needs to be done to underwrite this particular portfolio, which was 201 loans that totaled over $22 million. So not a bad payday coming his way. All right. The second way is you can carve out some NPNs, what I call golden nuggets, for your own portfolio and build your own wealth through what I call sweat equity. How this works, if you can receive payments every month on the notes that you carve out for your own portfolio on $1 million worth of performing note portfolio. That works out to about $8,000 per month for the next 20 years. Okay, 20 years is a model that I use based on them making payments for 20 years. That's about what you receive every single month, which is right at about a six-figure income per year. Okay, now how would you build a $1 million portfolio? Well, if you break it down, say it's a loan that's a $100,000 loan, and you need 10 of them. If it was a $50,000 loan, you need 20 of them. So the truth is, it's going to be kind of a combination of both by the end of it. But if you trade, like in this particular case, on this $22 million portfolio, if he wants to forego some of his commission and pick up a couple of deals at 25 cents on the dollar for himself, that's a great way to start. Now, he may or may not be in that position. We haven't gotten to that part of the conversation yet. But the truth is, if he is, great. If he isn't, great. We're okay either way, because he either gets notes and cash, or he gets all cash. And everybody's going to be different depending upon when the opportunity comes across their plate. Some people are building up their portfolios, and some people are just paying down debt and things of that nature. They've got other personal objectives and other personal goals that the cash would work better for. I completely understand and respect that. But this is an option. Okay? This is an option. Number 3, way you benefit, what I call big lump sum paydays. People in our industry call them equity kickers or mailbox money. And here's how it works. Every time a homeowner refis or sells their home, you will receive a payoff on the note that you own. When the loan is paid off, you will receive above market returns ranging anywhere from 20 to 60% from being the owner of the note. So going back to this option, when you own the note, the truth is, even though I use a 20-year model here, statistically speaking, nationwide, people either sell or refinance. They either sell their house and pay it off, or they refinance their mortgage and go into a new mortgage every 6.9 years, statistically speaking. So 6.9 years. Now, the cool thing about that in our business, when you're looking at something like this and tying it into option number 3, is when a person pays off their mortgage early, your yield skyrockets. Okay, your yield goes up. It doesn't go down, because time value of money, you got the money back in a shorter time period. That's a good thing. That's a really good thing. Okay, if you leave it out for the life of the loan, whatever the terms are, then that means you're going to make X amount return per year. But if all of a sudden that timeline goes from being 28 years long to being 6.9 years long, that means you got a large sum of money up front, which means that your yield is going to go up. That's best practices in our business. Okay, these are solemn financial principles that apply to our business, to our industry as a whole. Okay, so let's look at a success roadmap, and let's find some deals for you to keep, to look at, and so that you can make an educated decision about what it is we're about and what this industry is about and what happens in this industry. So with that, I'm going to minimize this screen. Give me just a second. I'm going to pull up this one right here. Let me do this. So here we've got a portfolio. And with that, let me see if I can make this bigger. There we go. And in this portfolio, we've got 71 loans, or 70 actually. And you've got a portfolio, we've got 4.9 UPB, and we've got 2.0 in value. Pretty standard aspect to our business when you get right down to it. And these loans are kind of all over the place in regards to BPO dates, times, status, give some comments in regards to what's going on. And then you've got all the other aspects of the loan as far as property name, principal name, social security numbers, all that kind of fun stuff. So with that, one of the things we want to look at here is this an opportunity to buy into this deal? Now, this particular portfolio, they're asking 27.8% of UPB. So that being said, if you get 27.8% of UPB, one of the things that you first and foremost have to look at is how does this compare to the overall value? So with that, we have 4.9, wait a minute, 490,000 times 27.8%, talking $1.3 million. So as a whole, you divide that into 2 million, and you're talking 68%, what we call investment to value. Okay, ITV, investment to value. That's a little bit on the high side. I'm going to be real honest with you. That's a little bit on the high side. So we want to keep all of our investment to values at 50% or less. Okay. Now, what does investment to value mean? It means, what is my total investment into this note, whether it's a single note or whether it's a portfolio, an entire portfolio? What is my investment into this so that I can be profitable? And when you look at it, first you've got the cost. Okay, you've got the cost of the portfolio. In this particular case, 27.8%. Then you've got things like legal. So that could be like foreclosure costs. Then you've got taxes. Then you've got due diligence cost. Okay. Then you've got broker costs. So if somebody brings you a portfolio, you want to compensate them. You want to treat them well. Okay. The reason is they'll keep bringing you stuff. You know, you treat them well, they'll keep bringing you stuff. So there's a broker cost to it. And at the end of the day, you look at legal, that's typically around 3%. Taxes are anywhere from 3 to 4%. Due diligence cost is around 2%. Broker fee is anywhere between 1 to 3%. So let's just pick 2 as an average. Okay. So then you get into looking at all of these costs, and then you got marketing costs, and you got resale. Now, keep in mind, when you're talking about houses that are only worth $18,000, that are only worth $38,000, $13,000, $10,000, things like that, chances are they're not in amazing shape. Okay, they're not Taj Mahals, they're not Beverly Hills, they're not Manhattan. These are houses that have been, in some cases, vacant and they've been vandalized, or these are houses that have been that people are living in, but the area has gone down in so much value that it's impacted them as well. So keep in mind that when you get to those kinds of houses and those kinds of deals, you have to look at it from, can I make money on this? Yes or no. Now, the answer is most of the time, yes, as long as you understand what your end exit strategy is. Okay. Now, I can tell you exactly what your end exit strategy is in this. In the event, because you've got plan A and plan B. Plan A is you get the loan back to performing status and their homeowner's happy, they're living in it, and they go back to enjoying their life without the stress and the hassle. Plan B is you have to foreclose on the property, you take the property back. Because you're a note investor and you're 1,000 miles away from the property, you now have to list it with a real estate agent to sell the property, or you reach out to, say, an investor group or an investor network that's in the area that would pay you cash for it. Now, what do investors like to do? They like to buy things at a discount, hence our industry, hence the industry of rehabbing homes. So they want to buy their product at around 50 to 60 cents on the dollar, because now they have to go in, fix the toilets, fix the cabinets, fix the flooring, fix the paint, the walls, and everything else. I'm not going to do that. So that means that they, in general, will have to pick up those costs. We're passing those responsibilities to them, okay, which is perfectly okay. That's going to happen in a percentage of deals as a whole. With that, you dig into this portfolio and you see, as I explained in the beginning, when the banks sell this stuff off, they want to get all of it off their books. But then when the hedge fund, private equity fund, the Wall Street firm wants to sell it off, they draw that line, and everything below that goes away, and everything above that they keep. Okay, in other words, they cherry pick the portfolio for themselves. But then they turn around and they sell this off to street level investors like me and you, who then have the responsibility of making heads or tails of the product. The good thing is that we can make heads or tails of the product to determine whether or not the deals have any merit to us. Now, one of the first things you might want to do when you've got a portfolio of this nature, because it's kind of all over the board in regards to BPOs, you've got BPO here of 47,000 and you've got a UPB of 46. Okay, so it's got like $1,000 equity in the deal. And then you get something like this that I was just on. Here you got an unpaid principal balance of 125, but the house is only worth 10 grand. Okay, chances are this house was highly damaged, burned out, not in good shape. They may have had some fraudulent appraisals done when they did the loan originally. How they got $110,000 house to appraise for 125. That wasn't because of the economy. Okay, that wasn't because of the economy. That was some creative math, is what I like to call it. That's some pretty creative math. So you're going to have these kinds of matters to choose from. Now, here's the good part about a portfolio like this is just because there's 70 loans in it doesn't mean you have to buy the entire portfolio. So you can actually go in and cherry pick each loan. So as a whole. So first, as a non-performing note investor, the things that I'm going to be looking for are, I'm going to start off saying, okay, this one's a good one. So let's grab that one. That one's not good. That one's not good. That one's not good. Now, how is it that I know that they're not good? Well, I've done this so many times that I know that their asking price being 27.8 plus all of my costs and expenses. When I look at that, well, if you do 27% of 143, you're talking 27. You're talking about $34,000, and the house is only worth $34,000. So I'm already negative equity on myself. I'm already negative equity in my investment. I'm not going to waste my time chasing that deal. Now, you could potentially go back and say what they call loan level pricing in our industry, and you could go back and say, okay, this house right here, it's only worth $34,000. I'll tell you what, I'll give you $5,000 for it. And they may or may not accept it. Okay, they may come back and say, we'll give us $7,000 and you can have it. And at the end of the day, that may or may not make sense. Okay, so that's just that is a option as a whole. So you get in here, I wouldn't do that one, I wouldn't do that one, wouldn't do that one, wouldn't do that one. No, 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 no. This one here I would. This one here I would. This one here could be kind of close. No, this one here I would. So a lot of this is just from my own personal experience, but you can kind of hopefully see the trend that I'm working off of here. Now, here's the other thing about values, okay? You can see right here the value column is an older value column. So one of the things that you could potentially do, or the seller could potentially do, is go out and get new values on each property. And there might be the possibility that the values have gone up. There also might be the possibility that the values have gone down. And to be frankly honest with you, realistically speaking, there's probably a combination of both. Okay? There's probably a combination of both. And so that is an option. But let me get back to here because I got to get into the software and share with you guys some cool stuff. So let me just take this first trade here. Let me actually, I'm going to do this one here, okay? Because this is kind of somewhat normal deal here when you got something that's negative equity. So here you get UPB of 76, 582, 25. And that's a UPB. And then you get value of 65K. And let me see here. Expected value 69. They're in BK, Chapter 7, discharge, house surrendered. Okay, that works fine. Single family, date of maturity. Let me see here. This is in Pekin, Illinois. Property address is 1113 North 16th Street. Let me see how many bedrooms, date of maturity, date of origination. We got 61554. I'm writing down some notes because I can't transfer the information. Property parcel number, social, it's occupied, interest rate, 10.2, 10.26. Principal balance 7652. Great. Payment is 685.10. Last payment is irrelevant. Delinquent taxes. Okay, this is taxes are 3698.93. Okay, taxes. See anything else here? Nothing. Okay, so I got what I need. Let me minimize this. Bring this up. This thing big. Okay, so let me kick in some numbers here real quick. We got 113 North 16th Street. And we've got PEKIN, Pekin. I didn't get the year built on it. I don't think it had it. UPB on this is 76. Now here's the coolest thing about this software. All I have to focus in on are the highlighted yellow areas to start with, okay? So current market value is 65,000. Okay, that's your current market value. And offered to acquire the note. We have 27.8 of UPB, so that's 76582.25 times $21,289.87. That's the cost of acquiring it. And then let's see, go down here. I need to go, hold on here, doing all kinds of fun stuff here. So our current amount, 7652, terms 30 years, rate is 10.26%. It's a 20-year term. $25-year term. I'm sorry. Have my numbers transposed there on my sheet. Okay. So I wanted to just do this little area here first, and I'll come back here in just a minute, because tying this in immediately ties into our starting point. Now, I go over here. I've got the address. I've got the year built, property type residential. I didn't grab the bedrooms and baths. UPB is 76,582. Current market value is 65. Payment is 686. Principal and interest or non-prepayment estimated exit time frame 120 days. What stage doesn't apply. Foreclosure stage doesn't apply because they surrendered the house. How many liens? There's just one. Second lien amount does not apply. Arrearages, I did not grab that off the sheet. I apologize. Total payoff arrearages plus UPB. Put 76,582.00. Now keep in mind, in our business, we do not pay anything for any arrearages. We do not pay anything for any taxes. Okay. So if the person stopped paying on the loan 3 years ago and the last payment they made left a balance of 76,582, and since then they've racked up taxes and they've racked up 2 or 3 years worth of payments of non-payments, we don't pay anything for that. Now we inherit that when we buy the note, and we can use that as part of the negotiation side of our business when we go in and modify the loan, but we don't pay anything for that. Okay, no matter what state it's in or no matter what, because we cannot necessarily recover that, in the sense that if we were to go into foreclosure status, in order for us to recover any negative losses on the property, we would have to actually go after the borrower in a deficiency judgment set of circumstances, which means we have to go back to court, get a judgment against the borrower, and then seek out a collection attempt against the borrower. That falls into the categories you can't squeeze blood out of a turnip. In other words, they don't have any money to make the mortgage payment. What makes you think they're going to have any money to make up any deficiency payments? Okay, so just so you know that we don't go that route. Okay, any outstanding property taxes? We had 3,698.93. I don't know how accurate those are because we have not confirmed them, but based on what they have, that's what's there. Insurance, owner or forced placed, we have 0 there. Next payment due date, I did not grab that. Doesn't really matter. We can go in and grab that later on. Loan amount, original loan amount on this particular loan, I believe was $78,000. Original appraisal was $85,000. Current rate is 10.26. All right. So occupancy is owner occupied. So if you go in here, and one of the things that I like to do, let me go back up here. When I look at a quick sale value, okay, what a quick sale value tells me in general, we've got a current market value of $65,000. Okay, $65,000 is what the value is, and that would be under normal marketing conditions, meaning that a person puts up a house, and if normal marketing conditions in that area is 60 to 90 days long, then chances are, and the house is in good shape, you're probably going to get $65,000 for the house. Now, if you want to sell the house faster, then you're going to have to discount the house down below what its current market value is in order to what? To get people's attention, to get the attention of buyers. And those buyers will come forward and they'll ultimately put up the opportunity to purchase the property for you at a cheaper price, which is where the 30-day quick sale value comes into play. Now, one of the things I like to use as a rule of thumb, and I didn't do that here at the beginning, so let me go back. I like to use a rule of thumb of 80%. So 80% of 65,000 is 52,000. So it's actually a little bit more. Is that negotiable? Yeah, everything's negotiable. Okay. So percentage of quick sale value to set trustee sales price. So one of the things that you can do in the business, you can actually sell the note. Let's say worst case scenario, borrower doesn't want to modify, you're going to have to go to foreclosure. Okay. So you go in there and you can set the initial starting price of the sale of that property at whatever you want. When you own the note, you can set it for $1. You can set it for $10,000. You can set it for $1 million. The choice is yours. What this example is going to show you is if I set this of a quick sale value to be set at the trustee sales price of 75%, then the sales price of 30-day quick sale value is $39,000. Miscellaneous out-of-pocket costs, 3%, which is legal costs, so about $1,100 for foreclosure costs. Listing and other sales costs, another 3%, sometimes known as marketing. You got about $1,100 there as well. Total cost to sell this thing, $2,300. Total cash out of pocket, $28,000, with a profit of $14,242, with an estimated return on investment of 63.53%. Now, all that's telling you to do is we buy it, we foreclose on it, we sell it at the foreclosure sale. Okay, that's what it boils down to. Now, the beautiful thing about that is if you sell it at $39,000, which is substantially less than what the UPB is, then obviously, you're going to move it quickly. You're going to get a lot of activity. You're going to get it off your books, and you're going to turn that money in a very short period of time, hopefully less than 90 days. Okay, hopefully less than 90 days beginning to end. But let's just say it takes you 6 months to do that. Well, if it takes you 6 months to do that, and you got a return on investment of 63%, then you double that, and that actually gives you 126% return on investment over the course of a calendar year. That's a pretty nice return on investment. Now, can you increase that? Absolutely. You can make this, say, 90%, right, which would bring that up to 46.8, which is still below the $65,000 value, and give you a 96.23% return on investment. Now, whether you do that in 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, that's all dependent upon how fast you can do the foreclosure process, because it's going to vary from state to state to state. Okay, every state's going to be different, and when you buy the note, the stage of foreclosure is going to be different on every single note deal that you buy. Some will have started and be towards the end. Some will be in a situation where they haven't even been started yet, and you're starting from step number 1 and going forward from there. Okay, so that's the trustee sale / foreclosure sale. Let me see here. This one here is 90% as a whole up here. Okay, now You go up and over. What if you want to just buy the note and sell it? Okay. Well, pretty simple. If you buy the note at 21,000, acquisition and management fee about 3%, transactional cost about 2.3%. Okay. Total cost to acquire the note 22.4. So quick sale value on cash to value would be about 43.11%. Okay, rapid note sale, which is option number F here. So if you got a note markup, so let's say you bought it, you marked it up 75%. Note sale and buyer's yield would be 21%. So you'd still leave them with 21% yield. Cost of note buyer's cost of value 60.36%. Note sale price 39.232%. So you buy it for 22, you sell it for 39. Note sale costs about $785, and those are things like a new BPO, maybe some updated title, maybe some recording costs, a wire fee, FedEx cost, those kinds of little nickel and dime costs that are just part of doing business. That's what creates the 2% aspect. But then the note sale profits $16,000 for a return on investment of 71.50%. So let's say you're sitting there and you got $25,000 to work with, and you bought this note for $22,290. You're into the deal for $22,418 as a whole. So you're into it for $22,000. You turn around and you sell the note for $39,000. Okay, that's about 75% markup on the deal. When you sell it for $39,000 minus your costs, you're going to profit $16,000 on the deal. Not too shabby. Okay, so if you're sitting around with cool $25,000 in hand, this would be a quick 16 grand. Never go to foreclosure. Never try and modify it. Never even talk to the borrower as a whole. Not doing much anything. You could buy it on a Monday and sell it on Tuesday if you wanted to. Very, very simple. Okay. The thing about note sales is that they move very, very quickly if you have a complete package. Well, if you're buying a note, what are you doing? You're creating a complete package before you buy it. So if you take that to a new buyer, you can give them a complete package, literally with updated appraisals, title, taxes, everything. You can literally hand them the deal on a silver platter, and you'll sell it within 2 to 3 days. You'll get your money. Now they're going to spot check, and they're going to check what you did, and they may want to go out for a new BPO just to make sure that the one you got was a solid BPO. That's pretty standard, as a whole in the industry. It'd be like if you bought a house on a Monday and you went to sell it on Tuesday, the new buyer's going to still want a home inspection. They're going to want an appraisal on the house. They'll look at the one you got because that will get their initial attention, but it's not enough necessarily for them to write you a check. Okay, they got to bring in their own comfort level. But you can do the same thing with notes. You can definitely do the same thing with notes. So the cool thing about it is, in this particular scenario, option number F, you do what's called a rapid note sale and make yourself 71% profit on your investment. Now, if you did that, took that same $25,000 and you turn that $25,000 4 times in a year, I'm just saying once a quarter, you make yourself 16 grand every time you did it. It's it's about a 300% return on your initial capital on a calendar basis. Okay. So getting into option number G, let's say you've got an opportunity here with a family and the family wants to keep the house, or they want to maybe come in and rescue the homeowner. You do a family short sale. You can sell it to them at 90% of current market value, which would be $58,500. Obviously, that would save them some money based on the 76. You did that, cash for keys on the deal, payment. You may or may not do that. Like I said, this could be a short sale or it can be a family short sale. So if it's a family short sale, Obviously, you wouldn't be giving them any money for cash for keys. You'd be letting, say, an aunt or an uncle or a parent come in and buy the house from the family member, and in turn selling it to them at a cheaper price. So you would eliminate the cash for keys aspect to the scenario. But we put these line item expenses in there because they're important to understand. I'd rather have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. Does that make sense? I'd rather have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. Listing and other costs on this, 10%. Second to buyout percentage, 0, because there's no second on this particular note. If there was, you would enter that in there. Total cost to sell, $7,900. Total cash out of pocket, $34,000. Profit would be $24,000. Estimated return on investment, 109. Okay, 109%. Now, why is that? Well, because it's basing the 109% off of your core investment of $22,000 on this particular deal. Okay, it's not doing it based on all the other out-of-pocket expenses, which actually would occur at the time of the sale. Okay, so if you hired somebody as a real estate agent to market a house or sell a house, or they brought in a realtor or something like that, that's where your marketing costs would come from. Okay, if you were to work a deal because you own the note with the homeowner, you said, Mr. Homeowner, do you have a family member that would be more than happy to maybe step into your position and take out a loan and buy this house on your behalf, and we could reduce the principal balance from 76 down to 58, so it'd save you about $18,000 here. We could reduce it, and you could still live in the house, and you could just make the payments on behalf of this family friend or sibling or parent. Then that would be a family short sale versus a traditional short sale. Obviously, you would save on cash for keys and marketing costs. Okay, hope for homeowners refi, because you're a note holder and investor, you qualify for those types of programs as well. You can do a payoff of 85% of current market value. Cost to refinance percentage about 17%. Total cost to refinance, your profit on the deal, about 88% return on investment. Now, you can certainly lower this percentage. You bring it down to, say, 8%. It really just kind of depends on, what kind of cost you're going to run into. When it could be all kinds of costs. It just varies. Every one of them is different. For those of you who love to rehab, you can foreclose on the house. You can end up getting the house back at foreclosure sale. Get it back and rehab it. Pretty simply stated, based on 100% of 30-day quick sale value of $52,000. That being said, cash for keys, so you get them to move out without going through a lot of hassles. Listing and other sales costs on the matter, which would be real estate agents when you go to sell the house on the back end. Other pocket out of cost total, anything from title and all those other kinds of fun things going into it. Rehab costs, I estimated 15%. You can certainly put 20% in there. You can put 10%. Every house is going to be a little bit different. Some houses are going to be cosmetic. Some houses are going to be total redos. Okay, so you have to do it on a per house basis, but I find 15% is pretty consistent. In this particular case, I give about $7,800. Total cost to sell, $15,060. Total cash out of pocket, $41,000. Profit on the deal is about $10,822. So return on investment at 48.27%. Okay. Going back up here to the top, almost done here, ladies and gentlemen. I want to wrap this up here. If you got it back to performing, current yield would be 36.76%. If they were in a BK 13 circumstances, you can certainly get that back to performing as well. It's just an option. This particular borrower would not apply to them, so it wouldn't even bring in an option. Then you can get full reinstatement opportunities, partial reinstatements as well. Partial reinstatement would be, full reinstatement would be they pay back all of the past payments, which, to be frankly honest with you, very rarely happens unless it's a really small dollar amount, say less than 10 grand. But if it's over that, it's really hard for a borrower to do that. But you could certainly bring them in as a partial percentage of the arrears and get them back on track as a whole. You could also forgive that as well on the partial reinstatement. You could say, well, give me 25% and I'll forego the other 75% that you owe me. A lot of times what we do is we take whatever they're behind in payments and we'll chop it up into 3 equal portions and forgive after they make 12 months worth of payments, we'll forgive 1/3. They make another 12 months worth of payments, we'll forgive the second third. And after they make 3 years worth of payments on time, we'll forgive the third third. Okay, that's typically how we break it down. Okay, reperforming note sale, once it's back to reperforming on the deal. I don't know if we can do, oh, we could. Okay, so here are the note markup at 200% note markup. Reperforming note buyer's yield would be at 12.68%, with the note buyer's cost of value at 100%. Note sale price would be 64.998. Now, mind you, the UPV after a year's worth of payments would be probably somewhere around 75,000. Cost to sell about 1,300, maybe a little less on that. BK note sale profits 41.28%. Your return on investment at 184.13%. So BK is in there in the event, as you can see, it pulls from the top. So the blue line here pulls from the BK up above. The full reinstatement is here, then the partial reinstatement is there. Okay, so the first 3 options above it tie into this option here in the event that there's a difference between the options above. Okay, deed in lieu. Okay, we hear about deed in lieus all the time. Same thing. Quick sale price $52,000. If you were to get the deed and then in turn sell the property, like I said, based on a quick sale price. Cash for keys to get them to move out. Miscellaneous out-of-pocket cost. And then the second to buy out percentage says 5, but there's no lien holder, so you do 0.0 there. And deed in lieu, once you sold it, you profit about $17,000 for a return on investment of 76.11%. And modifications here, if you went ahead and modified the loan, okay, you got a total payoff of $76,000. New loan amount, well, you have to. This one here ties into these over here. So if we do new loan amount, okay, projected terms from amortization schedule. So let's just say we kept the terms the same, 76,582. Let's just say they got back on track. Okay, back on track pretty simply, but they can afford it at, say, a 9% interest rate as a whole. Payment goes up. We can't have, oh, I see. Payment here, reestablished 360 months. Here, H6. And there we go. So the here we go. So this would change up this over here, which would then in turn total new loan would be 76,582. Interest rate 8%. New modded interest only payment 510. 3 months worth of payments. So if you did a modification, you'd maybe ask for 3 months worth of payments up front. Be 1531.64. Cash from borrowers for the mod. You could charge them a fee to do this. It may or may not be beneficial to do so. You have to do it on a case by case basis. net adjusted cost to acquire. So obviously you're getting cash, so your cost to acquire is going to go down, and in turn your modified yield will be about a 60.16% modified yield for the next 30 years. Okay, so I'm running out of time here, so I'm going to wrap this thing up here. You guys get my point here. And here's modifications continued, mod to note sale. So if we modified it, note markup at 75%, sold it at a buyer's yield at 35.19%. You've got about a estimated return on investment of 71.50%. Here's what one of the things that's kind of cool is it summarizes workout options in suggested order. So if you did a family sale, you're going to get about 109% return on your money. Deed and lose 76, foreclosure 62, foreclosure rehab 48, quick sale to trustee 96. If they want to stay in the home, they have to have income, but you could do a full or partial reinstatement. You'd be about 184%. Family sale be 109. Short mod short sale pay refi 154, and then note sale be 71%. So it gives you all these different options. Okay, bottom line is we use this software on a regular basis in our office, and it helps us to very quickly understand exactly where we are before we write a check for any deal that we purchase. Okay, and that's the key to the business. Okay, you got to know in best practices, you got to know where you stand before you get going down the road. In other words, you wouldn't take a drive across the country unless you kind of mapped it out somehow. Now, you can't avoid the car accidents, and you can't avoid the rain and the snow, and I guess you could if you decided to stay away from those things and kind of mapped your trip around those types of things. But that's what this is doing here too. It's providing me a roadmap, a success map to the business in all of the investments that we do in our business. And that's what's allowed us to stay around for the last 19 years. And I say that only because I've seen people go in and they bought non-performing notes, not having a clue what it was they were really doing. And that's unfortunate. Okay, that's unfortunate because we certainly don't wish that upon anybody. And the fact that we're in an industry of $540 billion, the simple truth is, simple truth is that, there's plenty to go around. There's plenty of opportunity for everybody to go around here. So let me go ahead and wrap this thing up real quick. One of the best decisions I've ever made. Troy, I wanted to thank you for showing me how to really work the NPN business. Because of you, I was able to close my first NPN pool trade, get paid over $32,000 on my first trade. This will change how I look at the note business forever. Thank you, Tom from New York. Thanks a million. Many thanks for the opportunity to be part of your groundbreaking course and your willingness to go the extra mile by totally reinventing this industry and in the process sharing it so unselfishly with all of us. That is what sets you apart from the rest of the people you find in the internet or on the internet, and for that matter, those that you find in business in general. I also want to thank you for the $18,000 wire that I received from you on the Bellet Capital portfolio. This will help me get out of debt completely, which was one of my goals this year. Mike M. from Florida. So now that I've shown you several ways to make money with NPNs, I want to show you how to cash in on everything that I just showed you. I'm looking for hardworking, highly motivated professionals that are interested in becoming an inner circle partner with me and my $100 million distressed asset fund. I have more money than deals, and I'm looking to make several partners very wealthy. So what does this entail? Okay, getting started with NPN Pro, this instant access, all new materials, 6-module on-demand training is what we're here to talk about. Okay, this is an opportunity where you can get in the business and you can learn very, very expeditiously what it takes to be successful in the business. I put everything that I've done for the last 19 plus years into the training so that you have all the tools and resources that you need to take a very focused approach to the non-performing note business. Okay, this has nothing to do with rehabbing homes. This has nothing to do with commercial notes or anything of that nature. This is solely first lien residential notes which happens to be a $540 billion opportunity. With that, I've decided to do this as a pre-recorded training so that everyone can get up to speed quickly, and so you'll have immediate access to over 10 hours of training that you can learn from at your own pace. This training requires no traveling, no hotel bills, no extra costs, and no time away from your family. Module 1, I'm going to show you an inside look at what the current industry conditions are and where you can find an unlimited number of deals each month. Module 2, I'm going to show you how to work directly with the banks, servicing companies, and asset management companies to make sure that they call you first when they have product for sale. How to get your number on their speed dial. Module number 3, show you how to restructure deals for maximum autopilot profits by using my proprietary industry software to create 12 different types of profit from every NPN you find. This is worth the price of admission itself. And I just demonstrated that on today's call. Module 4, Portfolio Buying 101 and determining the value of a deal. Learn how to carve out NPNs from any trade from your own portfolio and how to create profit from each NPN that you carve out. Here's where I give you 2015 list of real NPN buyers and sellers. Okay, so I want to hook you up with the opportunity to go direct to the sources. Now, why would I want to do that? Well, simply this: I don't want a bunch of employees. I'd rather have partners versus employees. Okay, hopefully you guys understand the difference. If I have employees, then I have more people to manage. If I have more people to manage, I have less freedom to do what I want to do. Okay, I'd rather have business partners and partners that are entrepreneurial minded, who like doing the same things I want to do, and who really want no ceiling on the amount of money that they can earn. Okay, on $540 billion worth of opportunity, I would think all of us could make a pretty darn good living off of that for the next 10 plus years in this marketplace. But I also am going to share with you other buyers that are interested in buying notes as well. Okay, all buyers have their own pricing matrix. All buyers have their own niche as a whole. My niche is residential NPNs and residential performing. We occasionally will buy commercial stuff from time to time, but our real focus, 80% of our business, is in the residential sector. Okay. Module 5, contract review and how to underwrite NPNs from banks and the government to make sure you're not buying lemons. As I showed you today on the portfolio there were some lemons there. Okay, there really was. I can see that because I've done it so many times a day for the last 19 years. You may not be able to see that, but I'm going to show you how to pick up on the clues immediately so you're not wasting your time on something that's not going to make you any money. There's nothing worse in business than spending time on something that doesn't make you any money. Okay, and so the faster you can identify, will this make me money? Will this not make me money? The faster you can identify that, the faster you can then make an educated decision on whether or not you want to stay there. Module number 6, investing, working with hedge funds, and how to put NPNs into your IRA to save money on taxes and build your retirement account. So I put together an action bonus of over $14,500 in bonuses. These bonuses are only available for those that take action today only. Okay, so I put together a list of title companies that work our industry and understand our business. Okay, not all title companies are created equal. Trust me, it's $1,000 value. A list of servicing companies that can service your notes. Okay, by federal law, you have to have that. That's $1,000 value. A list of BPO providers. Okay, people that will provide you good quality BPOs. That's $1,000 value. A list of O&E report firms. Okay, people that can do O&E reports for you, which are very important in your due diligence process. That's $1,000 value. Due diligence services. If you don't want to do your own due diligence on deals that you're buying for yourself, you don't have to. There's people that'll do it for you. Okay, that's $1,000 value. List of loss mitigation specialists. So you buy a note, you carve out some golden nuggets for yourself, and you need somebody to negotiate that deal for you. There are people out there that'll do that for you, and that's a $3,000 value. A list of nationwide property tax records. Okay, this is key. You want to make sure you've got all your tax records on every deal you do. And some sources are easier than others, and some sources are more accurate than others. That's $1,000 value. Foreclosure laws in all 50 states. I've been at this 19 years. I don't know all the foreclosure laws, but I know where to go look them up when I need to. Okay, that in itself is priceless. That way, you're not, how you say, jeopardizing your investment. That's $1,000 value. The homeowner record research, making sure, after you buy a note, you want to track down that person. You want to make sure you're talking to the right people. You want to make sure you're getting directly connected to the right people. People change their phone numbers. People move in. People move out. People change their mailing addresses, and they don't even move out. They just send their mail someplace else. All of those things are important to understand. List of default services, people that can handle foreclosures for you, okay, on a nationwide basis. That's $1,000 value. And how to work the home values and applied analytics, okay? That in itself is a $3,000 value, okay? It's important to understand these things, okay, when you're investing in notes, because you're going into a 10, 20, 30-year investment. You want to be able to kind of, for lack of better words, use a crystal ball to see the future, okay? But how you see the future are things like home values and applied analytics to understand what the future is going to hold. Okay, where there might be a rough spot, where there might be a peak, where there might be a valley, so you could prepare accordingly for those kinds of things. Okay, I've also put together another action taker bonus that I'm going to give for everybody that takes action. Unlimited access to my Note University vault of over 55 webinar calls that I recorded, 55 plus different note trades, so that you can see firsthand how real world numbers work in our business. This will give you a quick and easy access to over 55 plus video case studies that cover over 500 million in trade volume from my office and prior students. It's got a value of over $4,000 by itself. So let's recap how you benefit by being part of this partnership. One, you gain tier one access to a multi-million-dollar business partner, and that's me. You receive cutting-edge proprietary software to keep, along with free software updates for life to help you build your own portfolio. Number three, you instantly receive $14,500 in high-value industry bonuses and private industry connections. Number four, you receive lifetime access to unlimited deal flow. As a whole, that in itself is worth tons. Number five, you receive instant access to a full set of training modules the minute you take action and sign up. And then number six, you gain access to an 18-year industry veteran that'll mentor you at a one-time cost, okay? So what does it cost to be a part of this, or what's the investment to be a part of this? Because it really is an investment. It's an investment in your business. It's an investment in your opportunity, your financial growth, your household welfare. It's an investment in you, okay? If you want to take your business to the next level and you want to capitalize on what's going on in the marketplace, where the hot trend is, and you want to be in on the front side and not on the back side, then your investment's $697. I've discounted it $1,300 to make it affordable for as many people as that want to take action and be a part of it. You can easily go and sign up at www.npnpro.com/offer/. That's www.npnpro.com/offer/. There's also a to-pay option on the site. So when you get to the site, you get on the bottom, go to the to-pay option. Here's what I'm looking for, okay? Here's the simplicity. I'm looking for people that want to take action. I'm looking for people that want to build a business. I'm looking for people that want to partner with me, and so I can pour into them so that I can help them grow their business. Because the more I help you and the more you help me, then the more the two of us benefit. Now, the whole reason for the training and the offer of the training is so that it gets you up to speed very, very quickly. Okay, it gets your business launched, it gets you up to speed, it takes the learning curve out of the business. Would you rather learn the business over a week to 2 weeks time frame, or even a weekend, or would you rather try and figure out the business over the next 12 months? because that's really what your choice is. It's invest the $697 and learn it over literally 3 or 4 days, or however long you want to sit down in front of a computer and listen to the videos and get the handouts and everything else, and be on that fast moving train and gain that momentum and start growing your business exponentially. Or you can do it on your own and figure it out over the next 12 to umpteen months and try and figure everything out that I can show you in 6 modules. So yeah, you may be able to figure it out over a 12-month time period and save yourself the $697. But the real question you got to ask yourself is, how many opportunities passed you by while you were trying to figure it out? How many opportunities passed you by? I shared with you earlier in the call, I had a student that just sent me over a portfolio this morning, $22 million. He invested the $697. We're going to close this deal. He's going to make a tremendous amount of money. He's going to make a whole lot more than $697. Okay, that's just one example. After today's call, I've got to go to the bank and send out a wire to another student that we closed a deal on. He's going to receive a $6,000 wire. Okay, on a deal that he did. Okay, smaller deal, single deal. Is actually a single note trade deal, to be frankly honest with you. So here he is getting $6,000 on a single note trade deal. So the simple truth behind this is that you can invest the $697, increase your learning capacity, increase your knowledge of the business, increase your momentum in the business, and be in front of the curve of the business, or you can go out and try and figure it out on your own. And I wish you the best, and I hope everything works out for you. But the question you really have to ask yourself is, how many opportunities are going to pass me by while I'm really trying to figure it out on my own? How frustrated am I going to get trying to figure it out on my own? How long is it going to take me to figure it out on my own? And yeah, you can jump to another webinar, and you can jump to another website, and you can jump to another blog, and you can read this, and you can do that, and you can go on LinkedIn and do all those things. But remember, all of that is time that you're spending trying to piece the puzzle together. All of that is time that we all are completely equal in. In other words, time is your most valuable asset. And that's to be said for all of us. Time is your most valuable asset. And so how you spend your time and how I spend my time are definitely always going to be different. But the question I have for you is, are you going to spend your time in a way that produces a result and creates a revenue and a payout or a payback for you that ultimately blesses you and your family in a way that you want to see it happen? Okay, I'm coming to you with 19 plus years in this industry, and all of our trainings are very direct and to the point. Here's what you do, step 1. Here's what you do, step 2. Here's what you do, step 3, step 4, step 5, step 6. And they're designed that way so that it helps people create a very clear and focused path to their goals and their objectives. As long as their goals and objectives are in the area of non-performing notes, you'll get there. Now, if your goals and objectives are about developing commercial land in some foreign country, then this is definitely not your training, because I cannot help you do that. And I'd be really honest about that. But if you want to be part of this wave, I mean, it's huge, because it wasn't 540 billion when I got into business in 2007. It actually just keeps growing exponentially, which is pretty darn exciting as a whole. So all that being said, go to www.npnpro.com/offer. I'm going to keep this up for a short while. I'm going to keep this up for a little bit, and then I'm going to take it down once we get all the people that want to be a part of it involved, so I can work with them, so I can get their business up and going. We're going to take down the opportunity and focus on them. We're going to focus our energy on the action takers. So very simply, www shop.npnpro.com/offer/ go there, scroll down to the bottom of the page, click on the enroll button, and sign up. And with that, I want to thank everybody for spending your time with me here today. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for setting aside and taking time out of your day to do that. With that being said, have a great day. Take care. God bless. Bye now.